taking a bus into part of a country that I just landed in that I'm not very familiar with. It's going to be an interesting experience.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture. I like to combine theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. Having been to Colombia and Ecuador, it's time to continue to the third country of this South American adventure, Peru. Upon arrival, I jumped right into 3 consecutive days of city hopping, beginning with an overnight bus ride to visit Huancayo to explore the city center, see a very unique park, and hopefully get the first coaster credit in Peru.
Just finished up a week here in Ecuador, currently in the city of Guayaquil, and I'm at the airport waiting to catch a flight to get to the country of Peru. And the next couple of days are going to be a little bit chaotic because I'm going to be doing some bus riding, some plane travel, similar to the way it was in Colombia about a week ago. Only this time it's going to be a little bit stop and go, if you will. You'll find out as we go.
This was the last of my flights with Avianca for this trip, and this was an interesting experience as we went down the jetway like you would normally, only we boarded a shuttle bus to get to the plane. This bus had an interesting arrangement of its seats, as passengers sitting near the driver were seated backwards. This sitting backwards in the front amused me more than it probably should have. While the use of a shuttle bus in itself to get to a plane isn't that unusual, this was a more interesting case as we weren't taken to a remote spot away from the terminal building. Rather, the plane that we were taking was parked at a different gate. This gate, however, was part of the domestic terminal of the airport, and since we were on an international flight, having gone through exit migration already, they needed to keep us separate from the domestic passengers. Still, it was an interesting arrangement. For some reason, when I booked all my international flights between South American countries, this flight was booked in first class. Although I wasn't going to complain about having a complimentary glass of champagne before takeoff. As the plane climbed, the timing of this flight allowed for a nice sunset view from on board. Somehow, with all the flights I've taken, this was one of the first times I could think of being able to watch a sunset while in the air. Having a first-class seat also meant a nice meal was served, even though this was only a couple-hour flight. After those couple of hours, we arrived to Lima for the start of this visit in Peru. In most cases, this would normally be the time I'd head for a hotel for the evening after a flight, but this time was different. I took a cab to Gran Terminal Terrestre at Plaza Norte to catch an overnight bus with Cruz del Sur. This looked like it would be a more comfortable experience with seats that reclined further back to help with sleeping, as it would be about a 7 to 8 hour drive from Lima to the town of Huancayo.
So to be entirely honest, if there's going to be a time that I get lost or I die on this trip, this is probably going to be it. Taking a bus into part of a country that I just landed in that I'm not very familiar with. It's going to be an interesting experience.
The buses of Cruz del Sur are clean and comfortable, especially with the ability to recline more when trying to get some shut-eye. Unlike the buses in Ecuador, these will not pick up passengers at random roadside locations. They only pick up and drop off at designated terminal stops. For those with concerns about the potential danger of overnight travel, this should help you feel more at ease. I will admit, the rocking of the bus made it a bit difficult to fall asleep, but the next morning offered some nice views of the Peruvian terrain heading toward Huancayo. We even passed by one of the motivations for making this overnight trek, but we'll get to that a bit later. First, let's head into town and explore Huancayo. To start this daytime visit, I went over to explore Plaza de la Constitución, home of Catedral de la Santísima Trinidad, or Cathedral of the Most Holy Trinity, the seat of the Archbishop of Huancayo. This neoclassical church was completed in 1831 and was elevated to a cathedral in 1955 by Pope Pius XII. While Huancayo only has about 1/60th the population that Lima does, it's still a busy city with many people walking the streets, especially around Mercado Modelo de Huancayo, a market for the locals to buy various goods or enjoy a meal at one of the many eateries inside. Another place I found interesting a few neighborhoods over was Parque La Identidad Huanca. This landscaped park offers some incredible stonework and sculptures throughout. They also have some incredible landscaping with trees and native plants to enjoy as you stroll along its pathways. You may have already noticed a few of the gold-colored statues in the park, but there are many of them throughout the park engaged in a variety of activities, some of which celebrate their local culture. One of the most prominent features in this park is a whimsical stone tower that looks like it's straight out of a fantasy novel or possibly a book from Dr. Seuss. It can also be a fun tower to explore and take in some sights, as long as you're 10 years old or younger.
I really enjoy the whimsical feel of this park, and it's a nice way to get away from the busyness of the city, especially in the main central part of town, because of all the activity that's going on in the markets and things like that. If you feel like you need a break from that, this is a great spot to come to enjoy a little bit of more quiet time, other than the sounds of families talking and children playing and things like that. It's a really neat park though. Well, at this point now, it's time to do a little bit of a backtrack from the bus ride to get here. Only instead of going all the way back to Lima, I'm going to be going about half an hour out of town to see if we can get a new credit.
After the attempt to get the coaster in Discovery Baños, I was a bit worried this place could be a repeat of that situation, getting to the park and finding out the coaster was closed. This park, known as Parque de la Huaycha, had several more visitors than Discovery Baños did, and as luck would have it, the coaster was open. Montaña Raton was similar to a Wild Mouse coaster, but with a fairly unique layout that was more spread out than your typical compact mouse coaster.
Sweet victory! Oh man, I am so happy that this coaster was actually running. This is the first of the obscurely located coasters on this trip that I've been able to get. It was actually running today, so got the credit. I'm happy, although I will say it may not be the only time I come here because there appears to be pieces of another roller coaster that are here and they might be working on building it, so there might be a return trip in the future.
Perhaps there could be another visit to Huancayo, especially because upon returning to the city center, there came some heavy rains that led to taking refuge in the shopping mall across the street from the bus station for several hours. That was until it was time to head back to the bus station to catch the overnight ride back to Lima. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube like these ones, which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.